These colourful creations are all by one of the great British ceramic designers of the 20th century, Susie Cooper. 92 today, she's produced thousands of objects that are now the passion of collectors and range from £2 to £2,000 in price. By way of a birthday tribute, Bryn Youds, design historian and self-confessed Susie Cooper fanatic, tells her remarkable story.
My attention was first drawn to Susie Cooper pottery when my mother gave me a plate she picked up at a car boot sale. And this was the 15p purchase which started me off on the Susie Cooper trail. It's a very sort of a standard floral from the 1930s, and it's but in many ways it encapsulates the simplicity of Susie Cooper design, which just appealed to me in its colouring as well as its spareness. Even though I've got over 200 pieces in my collection, I still like to have them out on display and not stashed away in boxes. In recent years, the prices have dramatically risen because the emphasis has shifted from the use of her wares as everyday household objects to becoming valuable collector's items. One of her key phrases that she used was elegance with utility, and it seems to perfectly encapsulate her design, really. The idea that utility as a modernist principle is going to be of key importance, but she would not relinquish any sort of sense of elegance or I suppose prettiness to design. At the same time, she would combine the two. Considering her abilities and that she lived in the Potteries, the heart of North Staffordshire, it was natural that she began work in 1922 at the established and respected firm of A.E. Gray & Co. Her name became one of the first designer labels. After revolutionising the output of Gray's, she became frustrated that she wasn't able to design the pottery shapes and left in order to set up her own business. Not only was this a remarkable thing for a woman to do at the time, but it was also the week of the Wall Street crash. I see Susie Cooper as a creative visionary, and I feel that it was people like her who helped pull the industry out of recession. Her energy produced a string of innovative and popular designs. The kestrel shape is my favourite shape. She was completely uncompromising in the way that she wanted a certain shape, and it had to have a certain aesthetic appeal as well as functioning properly. And the way that she married those two things, the aesthetic qualities, the way it looked, and the way it worked, was something, again, quite unparalleled. She actually managed to do what a lot of the gods of modernism didn't manage to do. She managed to put abstract modernist designs in the homes of the masses, I suppose. The decorative technique which allowed Susie Cooper to price her products keenly was on-glaze enamel painting. She was able to try out abstract designs like this, as well as more conventional florals. Another piece which is very unusual, and incidentally the piece which I spent most money on, is this very diminutive little plate, part of a sandwich set. This is actually the body of this piece is dated the 7th, 1929. It's going to be painted sometime after that, but it's... I paid £135 for this plate. It's called by collectors now linear, and it comes from the very earliest of her independent productions. And for me, it was the ultimate piece in many ways, because it's actually marked Tunstall, England on the back, and she was working in Tunstall in her own factory for just 3 weeks during October into November 1929. It's, I suppose, in many ways the ultimate sort of piece for me to have, and once it was bought, I can rest easy and I don't have to buy any more anyway.
Down at the airport. All arrivals and departures to the island are okay today. Bit of mist over the bay. And
in 1986, Susie Cooper left the Potteries, where she had lived and worked all her life, and moved with her son Tim to the Isle of Man.
But they've got at least one very smart.
It's with some trepidation at the thought of meeting Susie Cooper, this design legend, that I've taken the ferry to the Isle of Man. Will I find her in sedate retirement, or will she live up to her reputation as a formidable workaholic slave driver? Susie takes me to her attic studio, where I find that she is indeed a workaholic and is busy with a huge range of projects, including some remarkable ceramic trial pieces which she's struggling to push through into production.
We're still experimenting with a whole range of ideas as far as reproducing these things are concerned, and it is very difficult at this distance, and I don't like the telephone, and you can't sort of convey things over the phone, and so development has been very slow, and I'm just feeling a bit frustrated about it because I can't get to grips with it. You know, it hasn't been my way to go back over things. I like to be going forward over things and trying to find new ways of using whatever talent I may have.
By the mid-1930s, the Susie Cooper factory had become one of the most thriving in the potteries, employing an expanding team of paintresses who executed her designs. This photo shows one of the paintresses, Nora Dobbs, carving a sgraffito design onto a quail-shaped bone china coffee pot. Susie took me on a whistle-stop tour of all sorts of other experiments and standard production pieces that she uses herself.
This is the cream to the quail shape, you see. That's a very nice piece, I think.
Oh, yes.
That was a soup jug. You see, I had a range done for myself.
Can you put this down?
Yes, put it down.
Would you tell us something about the Kestrel cover dish? Because it was a very interesting design, wasn't it, in the use of the shape, which we put on the table.
It was such a practical thing to do, so that you could stack them, you see, you put one inside the other. Anyway, what else did you want to have a look at?
More experimental pieces, this time for Wedgwood in 1976. Oh, what's it say?
Yeah.
Oh, from a bronze ritual wine bucket of Western Chu dynasty, is it?
That's right.
Wonderful.
It was called, we used to call it the chowbow.
Chowbow. Susie created 6 different designs, only one of which went into production. She shows me the difference between her handcrafted prototype and the finished piece. It is wonderful. Susie explained the mysteries of her remarkable seed paintings. She told me that she waited to do them when she retired. I feel sure that these will be seen as an exciting development of her unique style.
And of course the varnish on top of the seeds gives it an iridescent sort of look, because of course I put the seeds on mostly individually, but you know, with the brush and what have you.
So seeds become your colour palette?
That's right, yes. I stained some of them, you know, with the stained. You see, these are melon seeds, and I've dyed them, you see. And
That's wonderful.
Look at it, you see. But I hope you know, will be accepted as a new art form. Whether it will or not, I don't know, but it is to me.
Perhaps the most outstanding work of all for me is her sculpture called The Lummox. The figure was inspired by the character in a novel by Fanny Hurst.
I was so impressed with the character that, and I could just see her, you see. And so I just got it. She's a one-off piece. She's modelled in red clay, a solid piece, and I've just wiped the glaze off the hands and
is
face.
That the red teapot glaze?
Yes, it's just samian body, they call it, I think, in the industry. And you see, she made such an impression on me, you see, that I felt I could just put it down.
I feel that the lummox embodies perfectly Susie's determination for self-expression. It's so different from the conventional way women were portrayed in ceramic figurines of the 30s.
Proper medium for it, you see. Yes. And this is
Susie was
exactly
especially anxious to show me one of her most recent projects. She's renovating the house next door and campaigning to have the Victorian garden square she lives in restored and listed.
I think it's been worthwhile, the conception of how to use these houses and bring them into the 20th century, to make them, to show that there is an alternative to making them into sort of bed sits. This is split into two.
Not only was it her idea to take this on, but she got down to much of the hard grafting herself.
And I had the task of removing black lead off these, all this sort of, the stripper didn't work on it, you see, and so it was what do you use, so it had to be detergent and so and scrubbing it to get it off. Whatever features were characteristic.
Her reputation was justified. Such vitality and irrepressible creativity.
Behave.
The design means so much more to me now, after having met this most remarkable woman.
If, like Bryn, you've been bitten by the Susie Cooper bug,